The meeting of the Louisiana Tax Commission is hereby called to order. The meeting is being held at the offices of the Louisiana Tax Commission at 1051 North 3rd Street, Suite 225, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. The date is Wednesday, June 11th, 2025. The time is 9 a.m. Please call the roll.
Chairman Rousseau,
Here.
Commissioner Leone,
Here.
Commissioner Romick,
Here.
Commissioner Guidry,
Here.
Commissioner Frazier.
Here.
5 present and a quorum.
Thank you. There being no old business, we'll move on to the approval of minutes.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the minutes.
And we have a motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion is adopted.
Shandrika Banks on behalf of the Louisiana Tax Commission. Today we have a total of 345 change orders. Staff has reviewed those change orders and requests to approve 337, place 5 in pending status, and deny 3. Staff requests approval of these change orders.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the 337 change orders and place 5 in pending status and deny 3 for reasons given by staff.
We have a motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion is adopted.
Shandrika Banks on behalf of the Louisiana Tax Commission. Today we have a total of 32 prior pending change orders. Staff has reviewed those change orders and requests to approve all 32. Staff requests approval of the prior pending change orders.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the 32 prior pending change orders requested as reviewed by staff.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion is adopted.
Shandrika Banks on behalf of the Louisiana Tax Commission. Today we have a total of 12 tax sale cancellations, all in St. Tammany Parish, 11 for being duly assessed and 1 for being erroneously sold. Staff requests approval of 12 tax sale cancellations.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the 12 tax sale cancellations.
Okay, we have a motion. Any discussion on the motion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion is adopted. Move on to appeal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. I think you've done this before. If you'll be testifying at the table on any of the matters before the commission this morning, I'll have you stand up at your chair. Have you raise your right hand. I'll administer an oath to you. I'll indicate to you individually to affirm the oath and have you state your name. Please raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Lisa Ross, I do.
Thank you.
Russell Ambrose, I do.
Thank you. 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 Y'all may have a seat. Appraisers, same exercise. I'll have you unmute, turn your cameras on, have you raise your right hands. I will indicate to you individually to affirm the oath that I'm about to give to you. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? George?
I do. George Wallace.
Danny?
Daniel Blanchard, I do.
Mark?
Mark Gillespie, I do.
Paul?
Paul Bennett, I do.
Josh?
Joshua Laverne, I do.
Luke?
Luke Brewer,
And
I do.
Mark.
Mark A. Palmer, I do.
Great. Thank you. Very good, Chairman.
Okay, the first appeal we'll take up this morning is the appeal of New Orleans Redevelopment Unlimited versus Assessor L.G. Williams in the Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 23-221-71113 and 24-221-71060.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to just address these appeals. So this is appeals by the New Orleans Redevelopment Unlimited. It's for 2 tax years. There's 2 docket numbers before you for tax years 24 and 25. With the taxpayers' consent and the assessor's consent, they waived notice, so we consolidated the 25 tax year for today's hearing because principally at issue is whether the property is exempt. And I'm going to read to you an email that we received from the taxpayer's attorney, which I also disseminated to you all, and it'll be made part of our administrative record. But this is from Sharonda Williams. She indicates, as discussed, her client, NORU, agrees that the crux of the appeal before the commission relates to the taxability of the property, i.e. the legality of the tax. NORU takes the position that the value of the assessment should be 0, considering NORU's nonprofit status. Because the commission will not, cannot accept testimony or evidence on this issue, NORU waives its appearance at the hearing scheduled for June 11th, which is today, and NORU will await a decision from the commission. The taxpayer did request that you do enter a decision, but it seems the taxpayer is not actually contesting the value. They're contesting the exempt status, whether the property should be taxable at all. As you know, the commission does not have jurisdiction to consider a legality issue, i.e. whether the property is exempt. The issues you all consider are ones of value, a correctness challenge. With that said, my recommendation, since the taxpayer is not contesting the value, would be simply to enter a motion or consider a motion affirming the Board of Review values for both of the tax years at issue. And then if the taxpayer wants to attempt to litigate any other issues in district court, that is their prerogative, and the assessor, I'm sure, will respond accordingly.
Thank you, Mr. Hoffman. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to assign a value of $2,858,900 on this property. That would be land at $119,600, improvements at $2,739,300. That's in line in total with the Parish Board of Review.
Okay, we have a motion. Any discussion on the motion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion is adopted.
Okay, next we have the appeal of Exchange Centra LLC versus Assessor L.G. Williams and the Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 24221-71051. And it's also docket number 24221-71052.
Good morning, Commission members. My name is Carl Kehoe, representing the owners. I'll be brief on this one. I know that we entered into a consent agreement with the assessor's office several months ago in March before our hearing, with the caveat that there may be some more information that we can present to the assessor with regard to this appeal, because the office market is changing. And there were some developments at this particular property that we think are pertinent today, and so we just wanted to offer that up. We thought, when we were talking about this several months ago with Russ Alvarez from the assessor's office, that we would like the opportunity to bring this to the fore for this commission and the assessor's office also to consider. This building is a 935 Gravia Place, known as the Exchange Center. It is at the corner of Gravia and Common Street, and it has 357,421 square feet of net rentable area. It's contained on 2 parcels. That's what you see here today. There's a smaller land parcel that is right next to the side of the building that's for like the service entrance and where the garbage dumpster is. The property is located in an area that was once the center of financial commerce for New Orleans. The office buildings that once surrounded it have all now been converted to other uses, including 210 Barone, 225 Barone, the Hibernia Building, the Whitney Building, the Pere Marquette Building, the Oil and Gas Building, 1100 Tulane Avenue, 1010 Common Building is currently under renovation to become a hotel. For these reasons, most of the downtown occupancy has shifted elsewhere. This building is a older Tier 3 Class B office building. And one of the things I wanted to present today in the announcement that in March, the building was attempting to hold on to a tenant, a 35,000 square foot tenant, TQL, which is Total Quality Logistics. They were trying to renegotiate their lease and keep them there. TQL finally announced that they were moving to the Lakeway Center. So that is the additional bit of information that we were presenting today to the assessor that was unknown and unconfirmed in March. So with that, that is the crux of our argument and our request today before the commission to consider this new material and these new this new bit of information and ask for a value of $8,262,465 for a docket number ending in 052. Docket number ending in 051 is the land-only parcel, which we're not arguing to be changed at all.
Okay, thank you, Carl. We'll hear from the City of New Orleans Assessor's Office.
Good morning, Commissioners. As the taxpayer stated, this is correct. This is a 21-story office building, Class B office building. in New Orleans, Louisiana. We entered an agreement with the taxpayer for a fair market value of $9,489,700, as mentioned. That's in the meeting minutes from the hearing that was previously scheduled. The only question is, yes, they're announcing that the the tenant is going to be leaving. They're currently there. This is for 25. The taxes were due in January 1, 2025, which means that the valuation, area of time that should be used for the valuation is previous to January 1, 2025. So if they're going to be leaving in the future, it makes no difference for 2025. Now, it may make a difference for 2026, but not 2025. And as we have an agreement with the taxpayer for a value that was a reduced value from our original 2024 value, and as a ruling by the commission, we're asking the commission to affirm the ruling that they made last year for 2024.
Thank you. We'll hear from the LTC appraiser, Marquet.
Unmute Marquet.
Sorry about that. I appraised the property at $9,849,700 with a land value of $1,566,500 and an improvement value of $8,283,200. In addition, the land parcel that's not being contested is 266.9. So the total for both was $10,116,600.
Thank you, Marquet. Questions from the commission? Hearing none,
Give me a
do I have-
breakdown of that number that you have.
It's going to be the exact same breakdown as Marquet's. The settlement was for the appraisal.
Can we approve? I'm gonna ask Mr. Hoffman, should we approve it as two separate motions since it's two separate appeals? Oh, good. Marquet, can you give us the total value again, please?
The total value of both parcels was $10,116,600. The land that's not being appealed is $266,900. For the parcel with the building, the total was $9,849,700 with an improvement value of $8,283,200 and a land value of $1,566,500.
Okay. Do I hear a motion from the commission?
Mr. Chair, I have a question first, though. Going back to the previous docket, I was confused because Ms. Palmer's presenting $9,849,000, but what was consented was $9,489,000.
Oh,
So
Yeah,
there's a difference of 400,000. So if Mr. Alvarez in the assessor's office is pushing for what was previously consented, that was $9,489,700.
yeah, that's a typo. I
So
apologize.
that would be land at $1,566,500 on this one particular docket, with the improvements at $7,923,200.
Yeah, that would be, that's it. That was just a typo on the part. We were asking for the reaffirmation of the settlement agreement.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Romick, for catching that, Commissioner. Any other questions from the commission? First off, I'd like to hear a motion to consolidate the two appeals. Okay, any discussion on the motion to consolidate? Any objection? Hearing none, motion is adopted. Now do I hear a motion on the value?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion. Well, the total value would be $9,756,600. And that would be docket dash ending in -51, the land value of $266,900. Docket ending in -52, that'd be land value of $1,566,500. Improvement value of $7,923,200. for a total value of $9,489,700.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any objection to the motion?
Mr. Chair,
Hearing
could
none,
I just
motion is
ask for a
adopted.
I'm sorry, could I ask for a repeat of those numbers? Especially on docket 52, Commissioner Frazier?
Docket 52 is the land value, $1,566,500. The improvement value is $7,923,200.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on the motion? Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, motion is adopted.
Next, we have the appeal of SLS Studios LLC versus Cesar LG Williams and Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 24221-71054.
Bill from the taxpayer representative.
Yes. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Sarah Nerbass, representing the taxpayer. The subject is a special use building located at 718 Richard Street in New Orleans. It was built in 2023 and specifically designed for film and television production with unique construction and infrastructure. The 2025 Board of Review value of $18.6 million does not accurately reflect the lack of income to the property and the limited marketability. Taxpayer exhibit item number 9 is an article detailing the hurdles facing the film industry in Louisiana. This property has been vacant since it was constructed in May of 2023. No income. Just a little background on the film industry in Louisiana. We started with incentives back in 2010, and we were the only ones offering tax incentives to the movie industry to draw them here. Since then, 75% of states offer incentives, and half of production has gone overseas or to Canada because of cheaper costs of goods and materials. To come up with our approach, we presented if you look at item number 5, I believe, it's the year-end 2023 profit and loss statement for 718 Richard Street. Their NOI was ultimately over negative $500,000. So to come up with our approaches, we knew we couldn't ask for zero, so we considered market, cost, and sales. There were no sales due to the unique nature of the property. We developed a cost approach using Marshall and Swift. And for our income approach, we did a market study of comparable leases in the area, and we came up with a potential gross income of $12 per square foot, applied 5% vacancy and collection loss, 15% expenses, and then capped the NOI at 9%. So ultimately, our cost approach came up at $12.5 million, and our income approach came up at $6.5 million. What we're asking for is them to be weighted equally and the property to be valued around $9.5 million. One other thing I would like you guys to note, we actually weren't able to appeal this for the 2024 tax year. When the rolls open, this was a land-only parcel, and the owners out of California received a revised notice after the books were closed that the improvement had been added for $24 million, dollar for dollar, the permit value. We approached the assessor's office and presented the year-end income and kind of explained what was going on, and they did not offer any relief. So the taxpayer ended up paying over $500,000 in taxes in 2024 on a vacant property that opened halfway through the year. So we ask that you consider the fact that the building was built in anticipation of an income stream that has not been realized due to the national and global incentives luring movie production away from Louisiana, and also to consider the lack of income to the property and that they were given no relief for 2024.
Thank you. We'll hear from the City of New Orleans Assessor's Office.
Oh, yes, good morning. The taxpayer is correct in the fact that this is a movie studio. Other than that, we disagree with their statements. This property is a new construction property, permit number 21-29697-NEWC. It was built for $23,998,887. The certificate of occupancy is May 18, 2023. The, hold on, you gotta check this. The notice to the taxpayer was not sent after the rolls were open. The rolls closed August 18th, 2023, because it fell on a weekend. The notice was sent out July 28, 2023, almost a full month before the close of the rolls. They had 3 days prior to the close of the rolls to go to the board of review. They did not go to the board of review, so there's, to say that we're trying to put a bill on them that they didn't have the ability to contest, that's not a factual statement. I disagree with that. It was sent prior to the close of the rolls. So I'd just like to get that out in the record. We do not send property owners tax bills after the close of the rolls, unless it's a 10-day letter, which then they have the right to challenge in court because it's a 10-day letter. So we're not putting the tax bill on the property owner that they have no ability to challenge. So like I said, that's just for the record. This property was built for almost $24 million. We have a valuation, or let's see, at $18,178,000, which we think is fair, considering that this is a brand new constructed building. It was valued, the tax commission staff appraiser will come in and talk about their appraisal. Their cost came in at $15,567,000, but if you look at the cost, it was done as a distribution warehouse, which is significantly different from a movie studio. Movie studios have soundproofing, they have special lighting, they have special sound systems. It's a total different animal from a distribution warehouse. And a distribution warehouse, the cost is $15 million, almost $16 million. We don't think the income should be used or have as much weight because, like I said, this is less than 3 years of age. Less than 3 years of age, there's no depreciation that's set in. So the cost approach is very applicable to evaluating the property. If it costs $24 million just for the building, and it's kind of hard for me to justify putting the value on for the taxpayer's requested amount of $9,500,000, which is less than $10 million, which is basically almost a third of what it costs to build the property. It seems to me kind of not apples and oranges. So we're asking the commission to affirm our value because it's based on a cost approach to valuation at the 18 million, which is significantly lower than the 23 million that it was built for. And that's kind of where we're at.
Thank you, Russell.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. So Russell, my understanding is you're going to be in line, your assessor is going to be in line with the Parish Board of Review?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll hear from George Wallace, LTC tax appraiser.
Yes, sir. Good morning, George Wallace, Louisiana Tax Commission. I did appraise the property. The land value was uncontested at $2,573,800. Excuse me. I had a cost approach, $15,667,000. I did an income approach and derived at a value of 11 million. And I had a total value of $11 million, $2,573,800 for the land, $10,426,200 for the improvements.
George, your total value was 13 million, right? Not 11.
I'm sorry, 11. I correlated between the two.
Yeah, it's all good. I just want for the record to.
Right, I'm sorry about that. Yes.
Questions from the commission?
I have one, Mr. Chairman, for the taxpayer. Ma'am, my understanding is, did you state in your statement earlier that that was the only studio here in the state of Louisiana?
No.
It's not okay. I just want to be
No,
clear.
when I was looking for comparable sales of studios, no, there weren't any.
Okay.
Yeah.
Question as well. Sarah, was there any business ever booked in the building? Any work?
They're not in that building. They have many buildings. This one is a new addition, no business. You can see, and I have the rent rolls, but they're not in here. So.
Questions from the commission?
Yes, Mr. Chair, just to continue on to that. So certificate of occupancy was May 18th, 2023. The date of valuation is January 1 of 2023 for this assessment?
Well, it would be So because it's a new constructed property, we follow the rules of the tax commission where a property is valued at its current rate and then indexed back to what it would have been on January 1, 2023.
Correct. So that, so that is the valuation date theoretically.
Yes.
Okay. And you made, Ms. Verbass, you made the reference that this has been vacant since May of 2023, just meaning that there's been no business?
Correct. Year end 23 and year end 24, they did not generate any income on this building.
But it was under construction up until May 18th of 2023 when it was
Correct.
available for use.
May I say something? Just in regards to the previous year, real quick, the notice in your packet is exhibit taxpayer item number 3 is the revised notice that they received from the assessor's office. It's dated July 28th, 2023. So it was sent out after the rolls had already been open for 2 weeks, and the taxpayers out of California. So they didn't, not that it's anybody's fault, but they didn't receive it till after the books were already closed.
Thank you.
No, not closed. Opened. They received it before the books were closed.
I'm not sure what you're saying.
They received it on the 28th, which is correct, after the rolls have been opened, but they received it prior to the closing of the rolls. Closing of the rolls was August 18th.
Sure, I'm just saying it's dated July 28th, 2023 from the assessor's office, and then it was mailed to California. And we spoke to them after. They missed the time period because they were under the impression that it was land only as it had been July 15th. The original notice.
Sure, I understand. I'm just, for the record, just wanted it known that it was mailed and sent to them prior to the closing.
It was mailed prior to the closing, but we have no record of
Right.
whether it was received prior to the closing, so we're gonna move on from
Yeah.
this topic.
Sorry.
Okay, questions from the commission? Hearing none, do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to accept the LTC staff appraisal. There's a lot of information being thrown at us, and that 13 million falls somewhere in between what the taxpayers requesting and the parish board of review what the city is asking for. So that's land at 2,573,800, improvements at 10,426,200.
We have a motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, motion is adopted.
Next, we have the appeal of C.W. Nola Properties LLC versus Assessor L.G. Williams on the Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 24-221-71055.
Hello, Commission members. Good morning again. Carl Kehoe representing the owners. Yes, these two appeals, items G and H, docket numbers 55 and 56, do in fact go together. One of them is the land underneath the building and the other one is the improvement only. These two docket numbers constitute the what is I think widely known as the One Shell Square building, also known as the Hancock Whitney building, since Hancock Whitney became one of its primary tenants in Shell's downsizing. This one, like the office building appeal, the Exchange Center just a few minutes ago, is one in which Russ Alvarez and I in the assessor's office sat in this room back here in March and entered into a consent agreement with the understanding that there are other things that are happening with this office building and the office market in general that we'd like to bring to fore to the assessor's office and to the commission whenever this year's appeal would be scheduled. At that point in time, we didn't know it was going to be June 11th or today, but we knew that it was going to be several months away. And so we do have that information available for you today and for your consideration. As I mentioned, this is the One Shell building, 1,256,000 square feet. The office market has deteriorated considerably since 2019, since the COVID-19 pandemic. And even before that, I think that the office market for New Orleans was changing. Announcements of tenant departures from the CBD include Shell Oil, Riley Foods, Accruent, FM Services, Cox Operating, and DXC. The downsizing tenants for this office building include Ernst & Young, and Adams and Reese. The subject's former namesake, Shell Oil, has announced that it will not renew their lease, and instead, they are building a new office building in the Lower Garden District to house their operations, about a 140,000 square foot new office building. They formerly leased 308,000 square feet, or roughly 25% of the building. It's going to leave this building, it's going to put a huge hole of vacancy in this office building. Most importantly, and just talking about the health of the office market, it's contained in your Taxpayer Exhibit 1, Item 6. There is approximately 1 million square feet of office space that is going to expire, or it's expiring in 2024, another 669,000 square feet in 2025, and 873,000 square feet in 2026. And what this shows is the, for lack of a better term, it is the lease expiration for, that we've been able to research, and it shows without renewals where the office market is going to be in just 3 short years. The new announcement that happened in the past couple of months, I say announcement, it has become known to the owner of the office building. For lack of a better description, they're nearly going to be in default. Their loan expires and comes to maturity June 30th, just 3 short weeks away. There's currently no agreement to extend the lease, or extend this loan with Trimont, and it's unlikely that it's going to be done in 3 weeks. So what this is creating is a situation where the property might go into receivership. That might extend for another 90 days or so, where they try to figure out how they're going to do this. Talking with the longtime property owner for Hertz Investment, and the property manager, this creates hesitation and caution with a lot of the tenants. None of them are going to extend their leases or renew. None of them will expand because of the uncertainty of what's going to happen with the ownership of the building, with the prospect of the building might be 50% physically vacant by 2026. What lender is going to lend? How are they going to refinance this? I was told in normal circumstances, they could get an extension for a 10-year agreement to extend the loan. That's just not going to happen. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out in the next 3 weeks, which their speculation, the building manager's speculation, is that they'll probably have about a 90-day period where the lender and owner try to figure it out. If something can't be done, perhaps a 2-year extension for the loan term in that time frame, then it probably will go to receivership, where then it, they're looking to, the Trimont is looking to sell the loan and sell the property. So it's just a lot of unknowns now, and this uncertainty, which I figured was on the horizon, is something that we have more today than we did 3 months ago, and that's what I'm here to present you with today, that this ought to be taken into consideration. I know there was a consent agreement 3 months ago in March, but this is what the assessor's office and I spoke about when we were talking at that time. So.
Thank you, Carl. We'll hear from the New Orleans Assessor's Office.
Oh, yes. Good morning, Commissioners. This is the same situation that we had on the Girard Street. We have a consent agreement with the taxpayer for the tax commission staff appraisal value, or roughly about $74,656,500. We did an income approach to value ourselves on this property. Came in at $137,891,700. So Shell is one of the largest tenants in the building. They are announcing, or have been announcing to the ownership, that they're going to be leaving, that they're going to build an office in Lower Garden District, which is going to take time. Currently, they're in the building. That income is being received for the building for them. So nothing has really changed right now. And just as of January 1, 2025, nothing has changed. Everything is the same. So we're asking the commission to uphold the ruling of 2024, which is a consent agreement between the taxpayer and our office, which was a reduction in value from 83 million or 84 million to 74 million, which is a $10 million value, which puts this value currently at the lowest it's been since 2012. So we think that that is a really good value for them. We agreed to it. They agreed to it. It was a compromise. Yes, they weren't completely happy and we weren't completely happy, but it worked for both parties. And nothing has changed for 2025. It may change in the future, but that doesn't affect right now. So we want the commission to affirm the value that they ruled in.
Thank you, Russell. We'll hear from Luke, LTC appraiser.
Good morning, Commissioners. Luke Brewer. I performed an appraisal on 703 Poydras Avenue. This was two different parcels and two different docket numbers, one being the land, the other being the improvements. The land was uncontested at a land value of $9,104,500. I developed an income approach for the whole property, which indicated a market value of $83,760,000. $9,104,500 of which is the uncontested land value, and the improvements being $74,656,500.
We have 9,103,500 on the land. I just want to confirm what the right number is.
Yes, that is correct.
Yes, I apologize. That's a typo on my report. But
all
yes,
good, Luke. It's all good.
9,103,500.
Before we move on, questions from the commission?
Mr. Chair, I have a question for Mr. Kehoe. Mr. Kehoe, refresh our memory, if you would, what you were requesting under the docket that began in 23 that we heard back in March in comparison to what you're requesting now at the 68.8 million?
That's correct. When we filed our appeal, you want me to confirm those numbers, or?
Well, you're asking for the same amount that you asked for previously?
We're asking for a lower value.
So what was the value when you appeared in March that you were asking for?
When we appeared in March, we were asking for a value of, I don't have that docket with me, I believe it was 74,186,600 for the building.
So that was closer to what you consented to?
That's correct. And at that time, 3 months ago in March, we had both 24 and 25s pending. In other words, bear in mind that we filed the other appeal in, what would that be, November of 2023, and then in November of 2024, we filed our tax commission appeal for the 25, this docket. Right. So, and again, in that year time period, we knew that the market had changed, other developments had happened. That's why we requested a lower value in the 2025 docket.
Any additional questions from the commission? Okay, first I'll need a motion to consolidate the two appeals ending 055 and 056.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to consolidate the appeals that end in 055 and 056.
Okay, we have a motion. Any discussion on the motion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion is adopted. Now, do I hear a motion on the value?
Mr. Chair, I call for a motion to accept the original, with the agreed to $74,656,500 on the building, which was docket number 056, and the land value of $9,103,500, which was docket 055 ending in.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, motion is adopted.
Next, we have the appeal of May and Ellis LLC versus Cesar L.G. Williams and the Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 24-221-72002.
No taxpayer present. We'll hear from the City of New Orleans Assessor's Office.
Yes, 1 second, apologize. This property is 223 Charter Street, docket 24-22172-002, and I'm stalling for time as I pull up my information. This is also a repeat from last year. No, it was the other chart. This was drawn. So this property is the May and Ellis Building located in the French Quarter. It's a multi-story mixed-use property, 77% residential, 23% commercial. It was purchased in 18 for $13,900,000. Subsequently went under renovation with a certificate of occupancy of December 6, 2018. We are asking for a revised appraisal amount. Originally was valued at $8,850,300, but we did a fee simple appraisal for the property, and we're asking that the tax commission affirm the revised value, which is slightly lower at $7,187,600. So that's a land of $653,900, building $6,533,700 for a total fair market value of $7,187,600.
What was the value that, was it this commission or past commission?
It was this commission. It was April 30th. I just don't have the minutes on it.
Okay, that's fine. We'll hear from the LTC appraiser.
Good morning, Commissioners. Luke Brewer again. I did a fee simple appraisal on 223 Chartres. This was a repeat. When I appraised it for last year's hearing, I had attempted to reach out to the tax representative multiple times and was not able to get a hold of them. And so I based my income approach on market value. And I will remind the commission of my previous appraisal of a whole property value of $7,034,200. For the repeat, I was able to get in contact with the tax representatives, and they provided their income. And I developed an income approach again, this time indicating a market value of $6,260,700, with an uncontested land value of $653,900 and an improvement value of $5,606,800. So the discrepancy between the values from the last appeal and this appeal is that I just had more income data than I had prior.
Thank you, Luke. Questions from the commission?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, I'm not sure if it's possible for to review back to the April minutes with the time that we have this morning. I was going back to my file just to see what that dollar amount was. But
I think it was continued back in April. I think we continued this case. I don't think we ever rendered a
It
verdict
may
on
have
that.
been, because I don't have a value either.
So in the meantime, Mr. Alvarez, you made an offer, is that correct, of the $7,187,600 to the taxpayer?
We did not make it to the taxpayer. That's the information that was supplied to the commission. I'm not sure if we did. Did we make a? We're not aware of any offer being made to the taxpayer for that value. Just as a kind of an FYI, the taxpayer provided us no information as their actuals, as they're required to do. It was provided to the commission, but that puts an unfair burden on us because we don't have an actuals to use. So I don't feel, not saying anything bad about Mr. Brewer, his appraisal is good with the information that he had, but as we didn't have access to it, I don't feel that his appraisal should be considered. Not that it's a bad appraisal, but just that we didn't have access and the taxpayer refused to provide information to us.
Understood, thanks.
There is no movement.
Mr. Chair, I'm ready to make a motion then, if you're ready.
Okay, go ahead.
I evaluated the income approach by both the assessor and the LTC. The net operating income is relatively close. The cap is relatively close. So given that the taxpayer or the LTC had information, the assessor did not, calculate an average income of NOI of $550,000 with an average cap of 0.0817, which comes to a value of $6,732,000.
We have a motion. Any discussion on the motion?
I just have to do the math, but certainly the land is at 653,900. Calculates to improvement value of 6,078,100.
Total value of $6,732,000.
Correct.
We have a motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any objection to the motion? Hear none, motion is adopted.
Next, we'll take up the appeal of Dynasty Properties LLC, docket number 242217616. That's letter M.
Good morning, Commission members. My name is Carl Kehoe, representing the owners. The subject of this appeal is the Hotel Henrietta. It's a small, limited service boutique hotel located at 3500 St. Charles Avenue. It has 40 rooms. Taxpayer has submitted exhibits numbered 1 through 10. The hotel is newly constructed. It's new to the 2025 assessment roll. And there's several issues and things that I want to present to you today, but the main one that I think we'll center on is the assessor's office utilizing a different methodology to value this hotel than they do its neighboring hotels. And thereby it produces a value that's about 150% higher than its competitors. It's currently valued at $168,725 per hotel key. Now, for some background, as I mentioned, the hotel was newly constructed. It received its certificate of occupancy on March 24th. In March of 24, rather. So it was put on the assessment rolls newly for the 2025 assessment. It's a small boutique limited service hotel with 40 rooms. Although it's nicely appointed, it has no banquet facility. It has no meeting space, no full service restaurant. It has only 12 parking spaces underneath the rear of it. It's a small cafe style grab and grow eatery. Its primary business is driven by small wedding parties. It's located outside the primary tourist center of the CBD and French Quarter. It's in uptown New Orleans on the west side of the Garden District. It's best classified as a limited service mid-scale hotel. It's not the upper scale hotel that the assessors average daily rate, the ADR that they used in their income workup would suggest. It has not yet reached stabilization. The occupancy for the year end was 47%. In the materials we submitted, our income that we submitted at the time that the assessment rolls had closed, they had only been open for several months. Their occupancy was only 34% in August of 2023. I'm sorry, August of 2024. So the New Orleans hospitality market is only performing at 86% of its 2019 levels, according to CB Richard Ellis. And we've conducted a survey of 17,849 hotel rooms in the CBD and French Quarter and show the average occupancy at year-end 23 was about 20% lower than the peak of 2019. You can find this information in our exhibit, Taxpayer Exhibit 1, Item 6. And again, the subject's occupancy was well below the market occupancy. So it was 47% as they're still trying to reach stabilization. And here they are today in the dog days of summer. It's June 11th, and we all know in New Orleans, the hospitality market in New Orleans, just with the heat, humidity, the uncertainty of the hurricane season, that the tourism market is very difficult, a very tough slog in New Orleans for the restaurant, hotel, and tourism industry. As I mentioned, it's a 40-room hotel. It's assessed at $187,000 per hotel key. Its competitors assessed far lower, and I can direct your attention to Taxpayer Exhibit 1, Item 3 for some of those comparables. And those comparables include the St. Charles Inn, which is also 40 rooms. It's located one block over at 3636 St. Charles. That's $91,000 per key. Hampton Inn's 100 rooms, next block at 3626 St. Charles Avenue at $85,000 per key. Alder Hotel, 90 rooms, that's uptown New Orleans, near the old Baptist Hospital on Magnolia Street, it's 80,000 per key. The Pelham in the CBD, which is on Magazine and Common, I believe it forms that corner, 84,000 per key. The Catahoula is very similar in its style and amenities. It's a small 35-room hotel on Union Street with a little small kind of rooftop area where you can have a cocktail. It's a limited service cocktails that it provides. That's at 73,000 per key, and there's a couple of others that I have in here in the mid-city area. So this hotel is located, is assessed far greater than its competitors. Using the income approach and looking at this competition, we're asking for a value that is commensurate with these that are literally next door, on the next block over. All these hotel values that you see that we've presented in this taxpayer exhibit, item number 3, these assessments were developed using the income approach to value. Our issue with this today is that the assessor's office is using the cost approach while considering market income to assess their competitors. And that's the issue we have with this. The subject puts the subject at a disadvantage. And IWO guidelines talk about fair and equitable and uniform and equal. Using a valuation methodology should be consistent for particular classification and type of property. And that's what we're putting forth for you today. So the assessor's office, in some of the materials they've presented, talk about in their narrative that they use a mass appraisal pro forma valuation. However, the mass appraisal approach that generated these numbers for the competitive set and the competitors literally right next door are not being used to the subject for the subject. And that's the issue we have. In terms of the value, we've reviewed some of the assessor's data that they have presented and proffered, and there are a couple of things I'd like to point out. Even if you were to accept the assessor's stance that there should be a weighting of these two approaches to value, we've got the income approach and the cost approach are both, I can find errors in both of those. The cost approach, let me see if I can find that. The assessor's office does not index it back to the valuation date of January 1, 2023. When you run the cost approach through the CoreLogic Swift estimator using that date, using the same assessor's parameters, you come up with a different value because the cost indices are different for that valuation date. The assessor's office cost approach is $4,943,000. Running it through with the correct date, indexing it, you produce a value of $4,451,000. That's just for the cost approach. The income approach that the assessor's office uses also has some incorrect data that they use. They're using an occupancy of 62%. The actual occupancy was 47%. Smith Travel Research and CoStar, which this is contained in our taxpayer exhibit 1, item 6, has a citywide occupancy of 60% in the CoStar. Our own Ryan LLC, what we've done, the research we've done, is about 58% for year-end 2023. The ADR that the assessor's office uses in their formulation of the income approach is 182.74. I'm not sure where they got that. The actual ADR that the taxpayer has for year-end 24 is $64.32. Smith Travel Research for a limited mid-scale hotel has an ADR of $134.80. $134. So the assessor's office is using $182.74. Smith Travel Research is $134.80. The tax commission appraiser, I believe, even used something somewhat less, about $127 for average daily rate. Again, the expense ratio, the assessor's office is using a 56.42% expense ratio. The actual expenses are greater than about 74%, as it's still trying to reach stabilization. Smith Travel Research and the Tax Commission appraisal have an assessment ratio, an expense ratio of about 68%, and probably even more if you include a reserve for replacement that is typically 4%. Moving on a little bit further, the cap rate, the assessor's office is using the incorrect tax rate for the effective tax rate. They're using a citywide 131.99 millage rate. This is located in the Truro-Bulani area. There's an additional 7.1 mils. So the tax rate should be, the millage rate used in that effective tax rate calculation is 139.09. The base rate, the assessor comes up with a base rate of 7.5. And in the materials that they presented, let's see if I can find it. They provide a tier 1 regional for Real Estate Research Corporation, RERC. But that 7.5 base rate is even lower than the average. We would suggest that the base rate should be at the high end of that, even if you're using a tier 1. And if the commission would indulge me, I can go through, and it's in our materials, how the cap rate lays out and how RERC uses a southern average for the development of their cap rate. New Orleans is included in that southern region, but they are inferior in the performance market-wide hospitality market to the other cities within that southern region. And those cities include, it's going to be Texas, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, which you have Nashville, Dallas, Houston, Austin, Orlando, Tampa. All of those perform better. So even if you're going to use a tier 1, and I understand the assessor's office probably why they want to do that, because it is a new hotel, it's a new product. So tier 1, even if that's appropriate, certainly it should be on the high end of the range. So if you take the corrected effective tax rate, which should be 2.028%, and add to that a more reasonable base rate of 9%, you come up with a overall cap rate of 11.028. So what this results in, when I lay it out and I put it together, you have the effective gross income is overstated by about $730,000. The net NOI is overstated by about $311,000. So when you make these corrections to its actual occupancy, the ADR, even if you use the market ADR of $134, you come up with a value of $2,958,000 using an adjusted cap. So our argument today is that we feel like the assessor's office should not give the income approach weight because none of the other none of the hotels nearby in its competitive set are valued using the cost approach methodology. It shouldn't be given any weight. And if it is to be given some kind of weight, then the income approach should be corrected to reflect what is accurate, and the cost approach that they generate should be corrected to index to the proper date. And then even then, if you do an equal weighting, you come up with a value of $3,986,000. The tax commission's appraisal, which uses the income approach, arrives at a value of $3,431,000. We are asking for a value of $3,002,000. Our value that we are requesting is in line with the competitors at $80,000 per key. The tax commission's appraisal that they have generated, I'm going to do the math on it real quick. $3,004,000 is $85,775 per key, putting it at the upper end of the range of the competitive set that you saw in taxpayer exhibit number 3. So we're urging the commission to rule on this property and determine a value that is commensurate with its competitors, that uses the same methodology that generated the assessments of its competitors. And in the absence of doing that, we urge you at least to correct what we feel are factual errors in the formulation of the both income approach that the assessor uses and the cost approach that they use. I'm happy to answer any questions or discuss it further or elaborate more, but
We'll hear from the New Orleans, we'll hold questions. We'll hear from the New Orleans City Assessor's Office.
Yes, good morning. So the property is called the Hotel Henrietta. It is a newly constructed limited service hotel with 40 guest rooms. The taxpayer is incorrect in stating that we valued it not as a limited service hotel brand. That's in our report, our appraisal. We valued it as a limited service hotel. Just to address a couple of things, the cost approach was used because the cost approach is used on a new building. It was built, as the taxpayer said, in 2023, end of 2023. It received a certificate of occupancy March 22nd, 2024, which means it could not operate prior to March 22nd, 2024. So basically, April is when it was open for business. Permit value for the building only was $8,647,737. Permit number 21-30635-NEWC. This is a brand new constructed property. The comparables that the taxpayer is asking to be valued at with a comparable key are not comparable properties. A couple of them are on Tulane that are in the heart of the medical corridor close to Broad Street. One of them on Magnolia and Baptist Memorial on Napoleon is at St. Charles. I'm sorry, is at South Claiborne. Nowhere near St. Charles. This is 3500 block of St. Charles. It is a good area of the city. It is a good area of tourism for the city. It is on the parade route from Mardi Gras and Irish Channel Parade from the Italian-American Irish Parade. It is on the west side of the Garden District, which is one of the most highly trafficked tourist areas of New Orleans. It's on the streetcar line, so it is a good area of the city. It is newly constructed. RERC defines Tier 1 as a new or newly constructed property in a prime to good location. This is in a good location and is a new constructed property. We think that our valuation is appropriate, and we think that is that's the value that we're asking for. You cannot compare the property at 3636 St. Charles, the St. Charles Inn, to the Henrietta. The St. Charles Inn was built 40 years ago. A 40-year-old hotel is not going to have the same level of construction and the same amenity schedule and the same finish schedule as something that was built in 2024, less than a year, well, actually 15 months from today's date. So 15 months versus 40 years, that's not comparing apples to oranges. That's not the spirit or the intent of any kind of equitable valuation that the IWO or that the taxpayers representative is claiming that the IWO wants us to do. It's equitable doesn't mean that we put everybody on for the same price per key. Newer properties are going to command a premium because they are newer properties compared to depreciated properties that have long-term incurable, long-term curable, physical depreciation. All that goes into it. So you buy a car, take it off the lot, bring it to your house, come back a week later. It's not valued the same as when it was on the lot. I mean, it is what it is. Depreciation happens. We think that a cost approach is a good valuation. We put weight on that because less than 3 years, there is no depreciation for a property. Taking into consideration the tax commission's appraisal, there are claims of external obsolescence in a struggling economy, but there's nothing in the appraisal to point to why the external obsolescence is being used or the struggling economy. There's no indication in staff's appraisal of this. A property, it's claimed to be in average condition, but is newly constructed. It's 15 months old, so that is not an average condition. that's an excellent to new condition. The only other thing I'd say is that the income approach in the staff's appraisal adds the Turo-Bulani millage rate as well as the Garden District Security millage rate, and you can't be in both. You're in the Turo-Bulani or the Garden District Security, you can't be both. So that is a higher cap rate because it's adding another security district that doesn't exist for that property. As far as the taxpayers' submittals, they're using hosts for the reconciliation of the income and not the actuals. The hotel was open for 8 months in 2024. The income filing was only 5 months of income from April to August of 24. There's no, item number 5 on the NOI actual was for 5 months. If you divide that by 5, multiply it times 12, it comes in with an NOI of 655,744, which is close to where we're at. There's some discrepancies where there's $185,637 for room expenses, which we're assuming to be the furnitures and fixtures of the rooms, which would be personal property and not in the real estate, which would depreciate the value on the NOI because they're inflating it with personal property on the real estate. So that being said, I mean, we're asking for our value. It is a mostly cost approach. There is some income approach. We're using CoStar because we didn't have actuals enough to use. There's not actuals enough to use for evaluation date because it was only open for a few months. So that being said, we're asking for like a majority cost approach valuation, which would be where we're at the, and I'll pull it up real quick. 5,866,400, which is for the total property. It's 5,302,500 for the building, which is significantly lower than what it was just built for. It was built for over $8 million. A valuation of $5 million seems to be fair in our eyes, considering that the cost approach is coming in right around that value.
Okay, thank you. We'll hear from the LTC appraiser, Mark Gillespie.
Mark Gillespie with the Tax Commission. I appraised the Henrietta Hotel at 3500 St. Charles Avenue utilizing the income approach and determined the total value to be $3,431,000. The undisputed land value, $563,900, and the improvement value, $2,867,100. And the total value was just under $86,000 per key.
Thank you, Mark.
Yes, sir.
If you don't mind, I'd like to respond to a couple of comments. The cost and value are not the same thing. And so what the taxpayer is asking for is the ability to reach stabilization and to be assessed in a manner that is similar to the competitors. As you can see in the exhibit number 3, these hotels are right, the Hampton Inn is literally right next door. St. Charles Inn, right next door, the next block over. Russ mentions our income reconciliation, that we did provide the income that we had at the time, which is a partial year, recognizing that we also in taxpayer exhibit 1 item 4 have reconciled using Smith Travel Research what would be a pro forma income model. I believe the Tax Commission appraiser did something similar. The only reference to CoStar and average daily rate, that there's nothing in the assessor's office that supports the $184 in ADR. We have in taxpayer exhibit 1 item 6, CoStar market overview, and there a 6-month ADR, and this would be for the entirety of the New Orleans market, including the CBD, French Quarter, and elsewhere, $165. So the CoStar for the entire market, the occupancy and ADR is less than what the assessor's office is using. We think that our reconciliation using Smith Travel Research is accurate. And again, I won't belabor it. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Look, you use the approach that's favorable to your client, use the approach that's favorable to the city. We're not going to go back and dispute every single number back and forth. He said. Let us, questions from the commission. Hearing no.
Mr. Chair, I call for a motion to split the difference between the parish board of reviews number and LTC appraisal number, which would be a total of $5,090,000, which would be a land of $563,900, improvements $4,526,100, total of $5,090,000.
Okay, we have a motion. Any discussion on the motion? Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, motion is adopted.
Okay, our last appeal of the morning is the appeal of Chateau Sauvage LLC, docket number 24221-73029.
No taxpayer representative, so we'll.
No, sir.
move to this.
I'll keep this short and sweet. This is a repeat of last year. The commission ruled at 200,000. We're asking the commission to affirm the value that they ruled last year as nothing has changed. Taxpayers submitted no exhibits.
We'll hear from the LTC appraiser, Joshua.
Good morning. It's the same appraisal as the last one, so there's no change to my appraisal. Total value would be 84.4. I'm sorry, 90,000 total.
Okay. Can we confirm what we ruled? Was it 200,000?
Mr. Chair, that's what I have on our decision from April 2nd.
Okay, good deal. Questions from the commission? Hearing none, do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move for a total of 200,000. That's land at 5,600,000, improvements at 194,400.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, motion is adopted. Is there any other business to be considered by the commission? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chair, I call for a motion to adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion is adopted. We are adjourned at 10:11.